there. It was a long time without you, my friends. I had another half marathon, food poisoning, and terrible flight back, so it was quite tough days. Luckily, I'm back on track and ready to tell you about two articles I enjoyed reading today. Unfortunately, when I was preparing this video, I found that even the first article is quite big because I have my own opinion on this. So I will actually tell you about only the first one. It is about Hanami, Ruby web framework. If you don't know what it is just another not as popular as Rails web framework for Ruby. A couple of months ago I published an article about different web frameworks which you can use for Ruby, and Hanami was one of them. So if you didn't see it yet, go and check it out. I think I will include some link here or here. I never did it, I will try it, I will do my best. So back to the original post. The main idea of Hanami is to help developers build a clean architecture, like in the opposite to Rails and VC, which does not help you at all. And for junior developers, it usually set an obstacles for them to build a clean architecture. By my opinion, it's a very interesting web framework, and I was even considering using this one for one of our microservices. I didn't use it back then. I actually explained it in my post, which I already mentioned. Hanami tries to eliminate those very typical issues Rails usually have, typical architectural issues Rails and Rails developers have, like callbacks on a model level, put every business logic part in your model, or huge controllers, and so on and so forth. From that perspective, this framework looks really promising, so I really enjoyed reading this article. Among other topics, author highlights some really interesting and worth to discuss ones. First is that Hanami uses ROM instead of active record pattern. So in this pattern, it means that your model, you don't have actually model layer, but like your model layer is just a representation of your persistence layer and your relationship between your tables or collections or whatever you have. It means that no callbacks, no business logic, no validations should go there. It's just a pure persistence logic representation. By the way, validation part is still arguable by me. I honestly prefer to have them on the model layer because they don't really add much complexity to your models, and it makes sense to have them there to not duplicate this logic in different form objects or in different actions or somewhere. And in the comments on Reddit about this article, there was a spectacular discussion about complex logic on model layers. One comment author told that he never ever seen that people really put all business logic into models, and other people start discussing this opinion with him and telling him that that's bullshit. He probably just too juniorish. He didn't work in enough amount of projects. So the guy responded that he's not. He had 13 projects in production. He worked in big teams, whatever. By the way, I can agree with this commenter. I've seen this pattern misused a long time ago, but for past 5 years, I honestly almost never seen it. I've seen no app which had more than 50, 100 lines of code in their models, and this is not bloated models at all for me. It's usually like validations and maybe 1 to really these model specific methods, and that's it, and this is absolutely okay by me. The second interesting point this author gives is actions versus or instead of controllers. In Rails or many other web frameworks, you have usually controllers which contains all the actions this controller has, and typically it should be crude, and by the convention you should have very thin controllers, but it usually turns out that you have not just crude actions there, you have something like import, export, index without pagination or whatever, plus you have params validation, maybe some helpers import, so your controllers may become really bloated, really huge. Luckily, aforementioned Hanami solves this issue with action segregation, so it has separate file for each action. It sounds not bad. By the way, I'm not a big fan of it, because if you have one controller file where you have all your actions, you may clearly see when it becomes bloated, when it becomes too bloated. And this is this very stinky code smell, and you can see it, you can clearly see it, and start working on it immediately. But in case of multiple tiny action files in Hanami, you may notice this problem too late. However, I really enjoy some things in Hanami, for example, that they force you to use repository and entities pattern. I very like their web versus business logic segregation, and this is what I really try to follow as well in my current project, which does not use Hanami, which is great, which is also very interesting web framework. If you didn't try it, I can definitely recommend you to go and check it out, especially if you use your web framework only for API. Long story short, Hanami definitely worth your attention, as well as this article, and I will include in show notes both this article, Reddit thread about this article, and Hanami. So feel free to go and check it out, or just go to your console and type gem install Hanami and go wild. See you very soon, my friends. I wish you all the best as usual.